Hey there, welcome back. As you can see, this is going to be a spoiler review on the most watched Netflix TV show, Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. So, for those who are not familiar with who this man is, he is an American serial killer and a cannibal born on May 21st of 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, died in Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin in November 28, 1994 after being beaten to death by an inmate. He has killed 17 boys and young gay men in between the years of 1978 and 1991 when he was finally convicted. Before I begin my review, I do want to make a note to those who were personally affected by this man that I will handle this video with care and respect because this really did happen to real people. Also, I will not be posting anything that involves body parts or organs, even though it was briefly shown on the TV show itself. Now that I got that part out of the way, let's go ahead and begin the review. So there's going to be two completely different lists, the things that I did like about the show and the things that I didn't like about the show. The first thing that I will say that I did like about the show, which is a bit of a double sword in a way, was how the justice system poorly handled the whole thing with Jeffrey Dahmer throughout the years. The reason why I say that is because when it comes to the TV shows or in real life, the police work and even when it comes to the judges, they don't like to be seen in a poor light and they can pretty much do no wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great detectives and police officers that are out here, and it's unfortunate that they have been overshadowed and overlooked by these corrupt, lazy officers that we have even till this day. I mean, just imagine how many lives could have been saved if only a fraction of these corrupt officers have actually done their job right. And that's exactly what this show had shown us as to how much power that they have when it comes to these victims' lives. And one of the most prominent moments was there was this young Asian boy who was unfortunately one of Jeffrey's victims who could have been saved if they have done a simple background check. This boy's name, and I am sorry, I am very bad at pronouncing names, so if I offend anybody, I do apologize for that. But his first name is Konarak, and his last name is Sinta Symphone, I believe. Again, I'm sorry if I butcher that name, but he was only 14 years old. This boy was brave enough and strong enough to even escape Jeffrey the first time after not only was he drugged, but he had his skull drilled in, so that way Jeffrey could pour acid into his brain to make his brain melt from the inside, and so that way he can turn him into a zombie. And then after that, we see a scene of him coming across these neighbors. One of the neighbors, actually, her name was Glenda Cleveland. She was the one who called the police on Jeffrey. When the police came over, that's when Jeffrey saw the police. He tried to explain to the police that, hey, you know, this guy, he's my boyfriend. We just had an argument, which is, you know, he was drunk and he ended up tripping, fell, and he hit his head, and that's why he was bleeding from the head. But the neighbor was trying to explain to him to the police officer that this guy, he couldn't even say his own name, you know, let alone stand, you know. And he does not, the neighbor was trying to explain to the police officer that he looked like a boy and that he did not look like a full-on adult. So she was trying to tell the police officer, like, hey, can you at least check his ID and make sure that he is an adult before you just send him back to Jeffrey? Because that's what Jeffrey was telling the police, was that he was his boyfriend, that he was 18 and that, you know, they were both drinking and whatnot, and they just got into a little argument. So the police officer, of course, they ended up giving this young boy back to Jeffrey because they believed that there was just no need to check the background check. and that there was no need to check for this boy's age. And he just quickly believed Jeffrey and just dismissed the neighbor who was, one, who called the police, and two, who was extremely concerned because he was just not conscious whatsoever. I mean, he couldn't even say his own name, let alone stand. There was even another time when, if we were to go back a couple of episodes, where he was actually convicted as a sex offender. The judge that gave him his sentence made a statement saying that Jeffrey reminded him of his own grandson, given that they both have alcohol addiction, and that was the reason why he was given only 1 year in prison, because he believed that people needed second chances. I mean, it's unbelievable how many times this man constantly kept getting a slap on the wrist, as we, the audience, knows what this man is capable of. It's truly frustrating, and I'm glad that it has gotten exposed to the public, just showing us how ridiculous this was. The second thing that I did like about the show was that how it didn't just focus on Jeffrey. It also shined a light on the victims' lives before they, was unfortunately in the sight of Jeffrey, the victims' families, and even the neighbors as well. Jeffrey has created so much damage to the people around him, it's not even funny. And even to the victims' families as well. If anything, they deserve to have a voice in this for the most part, because they had so much love to give, such as this man here, Tony. Tony was a deaf, gay, black man who died at the age of 31. He had so much life and he had so much love to give. It's ridiculous. Like, he had a dream to enter into the entertainment world as a model. Not only was he a handsome man, but he loved and respected not only himself, but to others as well. And he was heavenly loved by his own family and friends. And even with a hearing disability, he never sold himself short and lived life to the fullest. He was someone who was in it for love, not for sex, not for money, but he was there for the love. And unfortunately, Jeffrey took advantage of that. I liked where we got to see the neighbor, Glenda Cleveland, who was the hero in my eyes, because she knew something was wrong, but the police was just not having it. Like, they didn't bother to check her claim, and they just made it seem like she was just this paranoid, batshit crazy woman. But I am glad that once everything came out to light, she was able to tell her story. Because once everything came out and she was able to state her piece, basically, not only did the police look bad, but the whole entire case was just a mess. It was just a mess, and people were livid. The third thing I want to say that I liked about this show was that once Jeffrey was convicted and was sentenced to prison, there was no happy ending whatsoever for anyone other than Jeffrey himself. I mean, it showed a very realistic way of how things can be handled, and how, people do get affected by these things afterwards. People were being taunted and they were being teased and people were getting prank phone called, and it was just a really, really sad thing to see, and sad thing that people would actually do, because they just did not like the fact that Jeffrey went to prison, or that they saw him as like this hero figure because of the fact that he killed so many people in a gruesome way. And it was just really, really disturbing. And the last thing that I do like about the show was that I like that the victim's family members did not forgive Jeffrey, even though Jeffrey's mother, who was never there most of his life, pleading and saying, you know, I want you to speak on Jeffrey's behalf and that he was a good kid. And it's kind of like, ma'am, how would you know that he's a good kid and you never took your time out of his whole entire existence to try to get to know him? You've just left him behind. And the nerve of these people that want you to forgive these killers and these murderers, and like as if they didn't do anything wrong, that they're just mentally ill. And it's like, okay, I get that people can be mentally ill, but that doesn't mean that they cannot be punished. They still need to serve their time. And I enjoyed that the fact that the family members didn't accept this. They were like, no, like he killed my son, and he took someone very precious from this family that kept this family whole, and you expect me to just forgive him just like that? Like, get out of here. Like, who the fuck are you? Like, some people expect you to be able to forgive someone after they have done you dirty, and then once you want to shame someone for their terrible actions that actually have affected people, now all of a sudden you're the bad guy. And this is going to lead me to the things that I didn't like about the show. And the first thing that I want to state that I didn't like was how the justice system poorly handled the whole Jeffrey Dahmer's case from beginning to end. I mean, it was just, I don't even know how to put it into words on how frustrating it was. The fact that they could have done their due diligence of checking up this man, and they didn't, because I don't know if he just seemed innocent because of the fact that he's wearing glasses, or that he was really tall, because he was a tall man, that he was a white man. Like, I don't know, like, what was the reason for them to just let him slide like this, and to keep letting him slide even after his death? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the video. Now, the second thing that I really didn't like in regards to the police as well was that how they handled the tenants in the Oxford apartments. The fact that they had to tear down the apartment because Jeffrey was using hazardous chemicals and they didn't know how long or how much he used. So rightfully so, they want everybody to, you know, exit out of the building so that way they can tear it down. But the way that they spoke to this woman, Glenda Cleveland, about how she needed to leave the apartment, and she was just kind of like, well, I don't know where to go. Like, are you gonna be able to provide us a place to go? Because it wasn't their fault, you know, like like, is there going to be a place for them to stay in replacement of the Oxford apartments that they were already living in? And police was just very dismissive. He was just like, ma'am, you just going to have to go. You just going to have to get out of here. And he just walked off. And then I'm not even going to lie. Like, that would have pissed me off. Like, I would have went off. I would have been like, yo, like, you can't just be coming up in here telling me that I need to go and you're not going to provide us for us to stay. Like, that's not professional. And yeah, that would have pissed me off. I ain't gonna lie. Okay, so the third thing that I didn't really like about the show throughout was that how people was given excuses after excuses after excuses. Even after the conviction and him going to prison, they still gave this man excuses. And this was from his parents. This was coming from the justice system. This was coming from his fans. Like, this shit was so fucking ridiculous. It's not even funny. Like, bro, the part that really pissed me off, that really did genuinely piss me off, was towards the end. After Jeffrey was beaten to death in prison, they showed his body to his dad, right? And then they talking about wanted to cremate him or something like that. Put his ashes out, you know, and let him go, basically. Which, okay, I can understand that. But then they showed us a scene where he's talking to who, I don't know if it was a doctor or a lawyer or something, but it was somebody who was telling these two parents, both the mother and the father, about how they wanted to have his brain being sent to a college, a university, so that way they can study his brain and understand what, what was, what triggered him to do these acts. And then hopefully, prevent that, and I understand that. But the dad was like, no, we have to completely let him go. And then the mother was like, no, we should allow to have the university give away his brain so that way they can study him. They want to see where all this started. And the part that the dad said that really took it for me was that he said, oh, but Jeffrey, he wanted to be cremated. He doesn't want to be studied on. And that's the part that really pissed me off, because it's like Jeffrey was okay to study on other people, but he himself doesn't want to be studied on. Again, excuses. Okay, so the last thing I want to say that I didn't like was, that I did and didn't like, was that how the show portrayed everyone that was tied to this case, how they were perceived in the public. It was a lot of good versus evil, good versus bad. And as the audience, we know what's bad. We know what's bad. Jeffrey Dahmer was bad. Killing was bad. This whole justice system was bad. And that how the heroes that we see in our eyes was somebody like Glenda Cleveland, for example. Or how the family members, the victims' family members, I forgot their name, I'm sorry, but how they sought out justice. They sued, rightfully so. And the thing is that we, the audience, know that they are good. But the way that they were being, how people were treating them in the show, they were seen as if they were the most evil people in the world. And like, it's just so crazy on how we view certain people and how we view heroes and villains, because some people tend to be drawn more to villains rather than heroes, because I guess from the story standpoint they feel like they can relate more to the villain than the hero, because the hero doesn't go through any trials or tribulations. And I get that if you're watching a regular superhero movie, but this case wasn't a movie. This case happened in real life, and I'm trying to determine what drove people to see Jeffrey as like this hero figure, where they want to create comic books about him. They want to dress up as Jeffrey Dahmer as like this Halloween costume, as if he was some sort of, I don't even know what word to put out there. Y'all can put it down in the comments. But that, when I think about stuff like that, it's like, where are these people's heads? Like, what is it that they see about this man that says, ooh, I want to take pictures around his apartment complex and pretend that I'm choking somebody out? Or the fact that they want to draw comic books about him and make it seem like he's doing this for the greater good of the people. Like, or the fact that people would send him money. Sending him money through the mail. Talking about I'm your biggest fan. That is just so crazy to me. Like, it really is. And I don't know. I just hope that in today's age it's going to be better, but I really don't know why we are drawn to something like this. Like, what drives us crazy about serial killers? And I'm saying us because me too. I'm more so curious about how things happen, like why did it start. But I still know that they're bad people. I don't look at them as like heroes or anything like that. You wouldn't catch me dead like watching reading comic books about them as if that they killed off the quote unquote bad guys. It's like, how is that enjoyable? I would watch documentaries of them, yes, because I want to understand the levels of how things can be taken as far as killing people. But to find them, one, attractive, two, a hero or a martyr, or three, like some innocent man or woman, because women can be serial killers too, free my man Mojo, type of mentality. It's like, what? It's really screwed. Really screwed. I do hope that Netflix do pay the victims' family members for this. And it's not just this TV show, but it's in regards to any Jeffrey Dahmer's case, even from YouTube, Hulu, anytime when they talk about this man's case and his killings, the victims' family members should have a big cut, if not all of it, from talking about the story, and if they were to make any sort of profit from it. Because how is it fair to profit off of someone else's pain? That's just wicked when you think about it. Now, I do want to end this video on a positive note, but to be honest with you, I do not know how to with this particular case. I mean, it is a bit of a bittersweet type of ending with this show, but I just wanted to say that anytime when we want to speak on any type of case where real victims were involved, we should take good care of that, and we should also do our due diligence to, if we are making any type of profit, that of course some of that profit should go to them by law, because again, it's profit. And I just do want to say that I hope everyone is safe, make good choices, of course, have positive role models in your life, and don't look up to creeps and disgusting human beings like Jeffrey Dahmer. And on that note, I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.